Also, welcome back. Herzlich willkommen zurück. Jetzt zum zweiten Teil des Streams. Masterclass, Kammermusik, Klavier mit Hyung-ki und Subito Quartett.
Subito Quartett. Dankeschön. Thank you so much. English okay oder soll ich auf Deutsch oder who came up with the name Subito? Okay. Interesting. Cool. No, it's a good name. Okay, let's go. good. You transformed a lot since the first session today. No, actually, I'm half joking. You seem very inspired. Just your whole, of course, attitude and everything. That's really lovely to see. Oh yeah, microphone, of course. Yeah, I'm coming.
You're not in the picture.
I'm not in the picture. Where is the picture?
Can you
Oh my God. Yes. And now I'm in the picture. Dun, da, la, da, 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 da. This is a very natural situation where I sit really close and talk really unnaturally and say wise things. So everybody watching at home is like amazed. Wow. Okay. Sorry about the microphone thing. But that's what we have to do. Okay. Good. Let me first of all ask you guys. Imagine I'm not here. And what would you say to each other? How would you rehearse? How would you give feedback? Because it doesn't really matter what I think, to be honest. It doesn't actually really matter what anybody thinks. I don't even think it matters what the composer thinks. And I know that will be a very controversial statement for many, maybe even for Schoenfield. But he's not here anyway. And the four people who are really important in this relationship are the four of you. You have a name for your quartet, so it means there's a certain commitment, even if it's only for this year or maybe it's for the future, who knows. A lot of groups have been born in conservatories and then become, So so it's and you guys are the ones that are going to spend the time with each other on the train or in the rehearsal room, going, hey, bar 62, can you? I didn't. So I want to see a little bit how you would rehearse now.
I think one of the main things is that we could find more space to be chilled and not so stressed at some points.
I know it's difficult, but imagine I'm not here. Imagine nobody's here. Imagine there's no live stream. Imagine there's nobody in this hall. It's just the four of you.
So we actually rehearse.
Yeah. Yeah, just for, yeah, I mean, yeah. I think I can't speak for every teacher in every institution, obviously, because I'm not there. But I have a pretty good vague feeling that the rehearsal process is something that's not really talked about enough. Certainly was the case with me, and I had wonderful teachers, but usually it was, in bar 62, or did you know that Beethoven wrote to Schiller? But I mean, you're going to spend hours rehearsing with each other. You have to find a way to get on with each other. You probably think it should be faster. She thinks it should be slower. How do we solve this? I can sit here and give you incredible ideas and look and sound incredible and be very wise and say that was good, that wasn't good, and you go, wow, wasn't that incredible? But I don't think that's really going to be helpful. I really do sincerely mean, I don't think it matters what I think. I think what matters is what you four think. What were your ears hearing? You're used to each other. Were you getting enough left hand? Could you hear her cello enough? Was it because you were too loud? Was it because she was too quiet? She just proposed something that there should be more chilled moments. What do you mean exactly? Which parts? Be more precise. What could be chilled? And if you agree, how do you achieve that? I violently disagree with that, but let's try it, etc., etc. Let's see the rehearsal process.
I think the last rehearsal we already tried to look in this direction, like to be more chill. I think right now everything sounds like dynamic-wise like same. I think everything is
are you trying it again?
Because the piano and I were together.
Okay. Does she know that?
I know that, yes.
You know that?
I know that.
Okay. You know that, you know that. You think it's necessary to do it again? No, this it's not a trick question. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
How often when you play that place do you not is it not together?
Maybe like 30%.
It's not together.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How can we improve that percentage to 99.65? Not that I'm any passionate believer that music has to be played together. That's not what I'm trying to say here. In fact, that's a whole other thing. But since you raised this thing, and that's valid because you want it, then maybe it is true that by doing it again, it could just fix itself, as often happens, because you're more aware, you're more alert, you're listening, you know, okay, maybe the last time there was a page turn or whatever, there can be 1,000 reasons. But then if there's a 30% ballpark, then maybe you need to approach it differently. So that it's not just again, and then you might do it again, it will be together, so you'll be happy, she'll be happy, and then you'll think, okay, it was good we stopped, we rehearsed that bit, because now we're together. But then the next time you come to it, might fall in that 30% chance, right? So again, imagine I'm not here, I know I am, but how can we economize this process and make the is economize the right word? Yeah. How can we maximize on the time that you have, and to say, okay, so we have an issue, it's not together. Do we want it to be together? Both people say yes, all four say yes, great. Okay. In the past, it's not 30%. Okay, so it means that whatever you've done until now hasn't worked. It doesn't mean you're failures. It doesn't mean you're terrible. It doesn't mean you won't make it. Doesn't mean you'll be kicked out of MUK. No, it just means Edison tried 10,000 times before he found his light bulb. Dyson, you know Dyson? He tried for 15 years. I think the Dyson that we have is now the 6,198th prototype or something like that. Yeah. So this is not a criticism. There's no. It just, all I'm saying is, whatever you've done until now is not. It only leads to a 70% success. So maybe the four of you, maybe I can help find a solution to minimize that 30% for just that one passage. Go.
I think the tricky part is because the bar changes at the signature, and we have, I think, is it 3/4 and then 2/4 and then 3/4. Should we just do bar 28 and 29 like half tempo right now?
Here from the
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, you can do this. This is certainly a road to a successful result. No question about it. Slow practice, this, that. I've done it, and it can work. Just wondering. Let's just muck around. Let's experiment. Can we? What happens if you also play on the first beat? So maybe you repeat the second beat. Da 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 dee da da deem. So Johanna, if you could go from the 2/4 bar, yaga da diga da, and then you come in on the first beat. Yeah. Okay. So what's happening? Where is it? Even in this tempo, not.
I think it's like between the second and the third beat.
Okay, let's try this. Let's break it down even more. Let's just play quarter notes. Just play on the beats only.
So just the Fiddletakt, right?
Yeah, just the notes on the beat. Yeah. And from the 2/4 bar before. And now do the same thing and play the last three. Ya-da-da-dee. And really lead to that ya-da-da-dee. That's your arrival point. Yeah. How does that feel? Do you feel more secure with where you are? Yeah. So then let's try to do it. Let's try to play every note, but actually only care about those notes. Dum, beam, bum, beam, ba-da-da-dee, and not care about the others. Yeah, so the key is, even if you get lost, even if you're not together, that you feel this ya-da-da-dee. Maybe that's the most important information that we get over there. Because I don't think we over there care too much whether the notes are together or not. But we do care about the shape and where we arrive. That needs to make sense for us. So if you're both feeling yada da dee da 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 yada da dee, maybe it's not even about being together. Maybe it's not even about slow practice, but just bum, beam, bum, bum, bee, and aiming for that. Let's put it into context. Let's go from the and not too fast. Okay. From your A flat, boom. How is it feeling now?
The section before feels good.
Yeah, it's definitely clearer.
Let's just try some things. Can you sit there? And can you go over there? And maybe go behind Johanna. Or at least, yeah, your back to her or something. By the way, were you satisfied with that place? Do you think that that might reduce, that might heighten the 30% chance? I think it feels pretty real. I don't think you needed to rehearse that too much. No, but you might be thinking, yeah, but that's just an easy place or whatever. No, it's the whole piece. I mean, any piece of music is going to have those issues. Maybe this one not so difficult to solve, but the others are solvable in such a way. Not saying this is the way, but yeah. And well, play from wherever you want. And of course, this is an experiment. And of course, nobody in their right minds would play like this. But let's just say, for argument's sake, the concert, the venue that you came to perform, only works this way because because there's no room for the cello to move the bow, and he has a cold, and you're very mindful. You know you don't want to catch his stuff and whatever, but it's not a completely unrealistic situation. It's possible on some level. So let's just imagine that, yeah, but still play with the same, if not even more, commitment and listening and really being aware. And now you're in a different place and you're the violin, you're the top. We always hear you, yeah, but maybe now something different will happen with inner voice. Let's just try from wherever you want. Different.
No, actually, I think it helps me to listen to you guys more because it's a slightly uncomfortable place for me. I feel like I'm in a mirror.
Okay. Yeah. How does it feel for you?
I find it more difficult to listen to Locke because I can't see him, so he's not in my brain. So I just.
Wow, those were very romantic words. You're not in her brain.
Even though he's right behind me, so the sound's coming to me, but because I can't see him, he's less on my mind.
That's very interesting. Yeah. Okay. Do you think it's important to be able to see him?
I think it would make sense to either be able to see everyone or not be able to see anyone. But to be able to see some people and not one person is.
I understand. Yeah. Okay. How do you feel? I mean, you're in the same place, but in a way you're not. Because even though you haven't moved, everybody's moved around you, so.
I think that it just got clear to me how much this conflict is going on with the cello and the viola, and I had the feeling that because Locke was behind behind everyone, he tried to even project the sound even more. Yes, this was my impression. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I know people think I'm crazy anyway, so, you know, if I say something serious, people just go, oh, he's crazy. But this is very promising to me. This is something's very, very promising. There's a degree of listening and engagement that is, yeah, I believe it much more. I'm much more with you. I mean, I'm really trying to be non-biased. I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to imagine that, you know, let's just see what the situation is like. Let's listen. And this works for me. Yes, there's a few things you could argue acoustically, viola, etc., etc. But as far as the music making and the energy, maybe the fact that you have to not see him that's something that's so comfortable. Maybe the fact that you are in this situation that's unusual and uncomfortable is kind of forcing you to be less comfortable, which maybe is good. I mean, it's a weird thing because in life we long to be comfortable, but actually we're not happy when we're comfortable. You know, they've done all kinds of experiments where they've, you know, given random people like 10 days off in, you know, the Indian Ocean, just doing nothing, having nothing to do, sun. Sounds great. Like, wow, who wouldn't want that? And then, meanwhile, you know, 10 people are like doing chores, and then they reverse roles, and then they're asked, you know, to observe and how happy they were. And actually, strangely enough, the people who had something to do were that, however scientifically they measured happiness, they found that the people who had chores to do were actually happier. So there is something about, and when we get comfortable, we get lazy. Let's face it. When we get comfortable, you know, we sit in our sofas and we're comfortable. We're just zapping TV. We're not moving around. We're not uncomfortable. Somehow discomfort forces us to find new solutions, go other places, experiment. We have to find a way out of the discomfort. And that makes us discover something new and exciting. Whereas when it's all predictable, all safe, all comfortable, why do you need to learn anything? Why bother? You're done. It's over. Great. Here's your Oscar. Right? Okay. I'm here to annoy you and disturb you. That's what Jean asked me to do. This said, I'll pay you if you annoy them. So that's what I'm here to do. So you don't have to like this. I don't care. I'll never see you again anyway. So, all right. Let's discuss a detail. We talked a little bit about this in the earlier session about notation, and this is a very good example of how limited or how unprecise notation can be. And so, for example, let's talk about the way he's notated these dotted quavers and dotted eighth notes and 16th notes. What is your take on this? And bonus question, are there two different types of dotted quaver notes, 16th notes? Or are they all the same?
I think because
Okay. Totally could be right and totally valuable point. Do the other three agree with this, or do they see something different, or they're just going with it because you're the smartest person in the group, or what? Have you thought about this? Have you talked about this? So what were you doing on the train when you were coming up with a name? This was, no, I'm kidding. It's a great name. So, okay, I won't torture you too much. Look, there are many similarities between, well, all musics, but certainly Baroque music and, let's say, for want of another word, jazz music. Yeah, and one of these things is this inégalité, which of course is different, slightly different in Baroque and maybe slightly different in jazz. But the point is that you can't really notate this. Yeah. So I haven't spoken to Paul Schoenfield, but I have the suspicion that those dotted notes are not necessarily classical dotted notes. I have a feeling there's a difference between, but some of them are. Like, for example, there's a very kind of 18th century place. Where was it? Towards the end, where you all have it. Yes. This is very Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven. This is bar 185. This is kind of reminiscent of the Kreutzer Sonata, right? And you know, at that tempo. And also because it's on a diminished chord and it has this slightly symphonic, classical codetta type bridge material. There I think I could say with certain confidence that this is how it should be. But before, I'm not so sure. Again, it doesn't really matter what I think, but I think that you guys should talk about it and explore it and challenge each other, try different things, argue with each other, because it's great that you think that, and so, but I'm not sure that the other three think that. And I'm not saying that you're wrong, they're right. It's just there needs to be a certain unanimity, whatever that word is. Unanimity, is that the word? Unanimity, unanimousness. Yeah, English was not my, anyway. So, yeah, there needs to be some uniform agreement in that. And so yeah, so again, it doesn't matter what I think. You guys got to find something about that. What I do think is that you can sometimes reverse the stress. So, for example, what does he mean by that? So, for example, when you have, for example, at 25, yeah, that's this piano solo place, yeah. Can you try once to? Can you play it once with the fingering 1, 2, 1, thumb 2, thumb 2, thumb 2, thumb 2? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So, what happens when you do that? Naturally.
That the thumb is always the
Yes, yes, and it falls on beats which necessarily now, and when you start doing that, you're entering more this kind of jazzy field. So, whatever you guys decide, I certainly think you can reverse. Same with you. Do you have a passage that's similar to that somewhere? There must be. Yeah, you do. Plenty. So, for example, you at 13, yeah, how do you bow that? What's your bowing? Yes? Okay. Now reverse the bowing. Yeah. Swings a little more. Yeah. So don't be afraid to try that stuff out. Where's a place for you? You have you have a place. Yeah. So play how you do. Yeah. So you have so even if you decide, okay, we think that interpretation wise there's a difference between these and the swung eighths, you could still have that feeling of swing by reversing your bowing, by having the down bow on the so-called lighter note, and then so reverse it. Try, see? Yeah, so you have no choice but to go with it. Yeah. Can you try somewhere? I don't know, wherever where you all can sort of reverse bowings, and maybe you can add. Obviously, 1 2 1 2 is not ideal, but maybe you could add a few more. Yeah, just be clumsy, and maybe add a few more thumbs where they shouldn't be. Yeah. Especially second beats and fourth beats, and shorter 16ths, whenever you can. Yeah. So we don't need the first beat because we all hear the first beat. So it's the da 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 or da 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 da. Yeah. What's a good place? 13. 13 a good place? Yeah. On the B flat, and that makes this and then you can really kind of throw it off, and it makes it so. Experiment with this, and obviously it has to be comfortable to play on a certain level, but it also has to swing. And by just mucking around a little bit with, if you can kind of improvise. He was asking about how one can improvise. This is a thing you can kind of improvise, especially when you know the material well. You're performing, try different bowing, try different fingering, especially with this music. It will allow it. Yeah. Have you guys ever tried to practice this piece or play it through with a metronome? I'm not a big advocate of the metronome because I believe that one should try and be one's metronome. But let's try something. It may not always be possible because of the changing meters, but I think it's going to work for quite a lot of it. Hold on. What's the tempo of this?
I think we do like 110.
Yeah. What is it? Chord note 110?
Chord note, yeah. And half notes 110 support.
Yeah, half note 110.
Half note 110. I want you to do it. But that after a point, this metronome is almost like an extra, a live musician who's kind of going. So you're playing the robot. It is possible. You will feel it. Very good, very good. Don't give up.
So that in 39 it's then perfectly against that in 40. Should we?
But again, I know this is it's an exercise, but try to somehow swing those dotted notes around it, because you're getting, I don't know if you noticed, but you're getting caught up in it. So actually, whether it's a classical one or a jazz one, you're still lagging behind. Yeah? It has to groove. Whether it's Baroque music or this, has to groove. I really do think you can create that fun for yourselves. If you have that thing of, can you, I know we're live streamed, but can you try to play again this same passage and just try to move your hips on the 2s and the 4s? You don't have to do it demonstratively. This is not to embarrass yourself. It's just, because when you feel the groove here, see, one thing is, if you guys, you're talking about playing together. If one of you slightly fall out with each other, big deal, you'll find each other again. Happens all the time. Everybody falls apart and doesn't play together. But that's the thing. We care so much about playing together that each triplet, each 16th is together. But what you really should be being together is da, 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 da. This hip movement is the thing that you should be together. Yeah? Could you stand up, please, just for the moment? Yes? Yeah? And just do this. 1, just move the butt, move the hip a little bit. But on the 2 and 4. 1, 2, 4, 1, yes. Yes. Okay. Now, play. I know it's difficult to play standing up, but just doesn't matter. Just, it's not about the notes, not about the intonation. Try again that place and try to move your hips and be together with the hips, no matter what happened to the intonation, or it's irrelevant. One, two, 1, 2, 1. It's a very subtle thing. If once you have that movement, now I'm going to ask you to exaggerate it. But when you're sitting down, no one's going to notice it. But if you're just it's a slight shift of weight on. That's all it is. It's just this part is just feeling it. And if that's together, then if someone goes 2 bars out, you will all be able to come back in. Because you're feeling it together, you're grooving it together. So then it doesn't matter if you're not together, because you will be together. Yeah? Just try. Ja, da kommt mein Auftakt. Okay, yeah, I see it. Now I'm going to be together. Ich habe die Stichnoten. Yes, and now I'm with the cello, and now I'm together. No, you're together the whole time. Regardless of whether you're playing or not. Yeah? You're just together. Da, 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 da. And that's how you're creating what was happening there with your hips. Right? There are other words for that. Okay? But that's what it is. Feel it here. Yeah? Does that make it, do you feel the difference? Also in the ensemble. Yes? Listening kind of takes care of itself now because the notes are just falling in place. Yeah? All right. Don't forget that, guys. And I tell you something else. This is not different when you play Mozart or Vivaldi or... It's not, really. That maybe the way that one moves the hips might be different if it's Mahler or Richard Strauss or Chopin or Schubert, but it's still that feeling of, even if it's in 3, there's a feeling of dance. It doesn't matter whether you can dance. It's not the point. It's about just feeling that movement. And this is why when you watch great jazz musicians, and you see it's that it's either their foot or their hip. Watch Keith Jarrett play. It's quite difficult to watch him play because he's so excruciatingly moving around. But he's feeling it so much that his whole body is just in groove. And that's how these guys can play like 5 against 7 against 3, and then you've got some other. Because they're not thinking like we classical musicians. Ja, man muss 5 gegen da. Ja, 4 against 4. Ja, okay, mit dem Metronom. Okay, ja, dann kommt ein Sextakt. Forget about it. Ja, okay, wir brauchen einen Dirigent dafür. Das ist zu schwer. Wir brauchen einen Dirigent. Yes, to fall my 6. Now I can do my 6s against my 4s. No, you just need to feel. When you feel that pulse, you feel that beat together, you can have 15th, 7th, 3rds, and 2nds, and you will be feeling it together. And you won't be trying to feel like, oh, together, I have to fit in that, my quintuplet with, it's just going, yeah? All right. Yeah, well, similar thing that we talked about this morning with the other Schoenfeld piece, which is you all have, well, most of you have some kind of cadenza or solo. And is there a way that you can at least surprise your colleagues? Because when the audience hears you, they might just hear you once. If you're playing again the second night, if they love it that much, they might come back. But pretty much it's going to be one time, one night only. But you guys are on the road. So, and you have these cadenzas, you have these moments. Can you do something that is going to at least make your other 3 players go, huh? What did she eat today? Wow, I never thought of it that way. Yeah? Something we talked about quite a bit today, just generally, that thing of how do you keep something fresh? I was using the Beethoven 5th Symphony as an example earlier. We've all heard Beethoven's 5th 1,000 times, right? I know I'm repeating myself now, but I know that you guys were not there. And if you don't play Beethoven's 5th as if you're playing it for the first time, then we have no chance of hearing it for the first time. Because you're so like, oh yeah, I know how it goes. Da 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 da. Oh yeah, and then it goes da 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 da. Yeah, no big deal. And then it goes da 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 da. Yeah, etc. etc. Yeah. But if you imagine yourself as getting this crazy music for the first time in 1810 or whatever, and it's like, ba 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 ba. What? The world never heard anything like that. It's nuts. Not only that, he does it again. Da-da-da-dum. No key, no harmony, all unison, pauses. You don't know what time you're in. Are you in, is it da-da-da-da, or is it, where's the 1? What key are we in? E flat major, C minor, I don't know. What, and then, oh wow. Okay, I get this. Oh yeah, C minor progression. Yeah, okay, yeah. Then suddenly, ba 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 bam, bam, ba. Hello. Why? There's a long note here. But what's happening? Yeah, and then unison again. Ba 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 bam. And these things have to be. You have to play them as if you're discovering them freshly for the first time. Yeah. And so it's. And there are ways to do this, and to be aware, to be mindful, to be reactive, to be proactive, to be provocative, especially with the four of you. Not just when rehearsing, not just when being on a train, but especially in performance when you're highly charged and going, take this. Yeah? Can I throw this thing off at her? Yeah? It would be, I think, a good problem to have, that you walk off stage and she comes screaming at you and saying, what the hell are you doing? You took that place way too fast. Or or something. Yeah, I didn't understand when I was supposed to come in. I would say that's a good problem. It could be that because you just completely went a bit cuckoo, but it could be also that you just were provocative and it threw her off. And there's a chance that you might be unhappy, but we probably were like, wow, that was exciting. Something unexpected happened there. Yeah. So how you guys are as a group, how you rehearse, how you are, how you treat this material, and for yourselves as well. Again, not being comfortable necessarily, and if when you do, trying something different, reversing the bowings, and not just for the sake of reversing bowings, but always for some musical reason, always for some artistic reason. And if it's not, then it's just a pure experiment, which is totally fine and necessary, in order to find something else. Yeah. So it's never something just for the sake of it, but it's like, okay, what happens, guys, if we turn everything upside down? Play all the fortes pianos and all the pianos fortes. Yeah. Is it a senseless exercise? Is it stupid? Or does it reveal some things that we've never heard before? Maybe. Yeah. All right. Where would you like to go from? Do you have any questions, by the way? How does it feel to reverse the bowings?
Yeah, it feels quite nice.
Yeah? How did it feel to play with the drum? Did you because after a while you started to groove, and you didn't care so much about where it was placed.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we don't care where it's placed. We don't have the score. And who cares what the score says? But it's like, it grooves. Yeah, I like this piece. I want to groove with you guys. Yeah. I feel that, like, for example, when he writes, like in 143, these kind of double stop glissandi, and he writes strike hard, and you need to give that space, just pure acoustical space, because he does it twice or three times? Twice. And either he's a bad composer, or he wanted some kind of effect, because that's not a usual effect. So it means we need it to be highlighted in some way. In some way. Can we try, I don't know, a few bars before?
139?
Yeah, I wonder. Can you play that just by yourself? Just. I wonder. One more time. Again, I'm not a string player, so I'm going to come up with a lot of stupid suggestions now. But is there a way maybe you can do it? That's already better. What if you did it completely the other way, but with your thumb? Yeah, so now I'm hearing more. Now I'm hearing, is your bow okay? Now I'm hearing more slide. Because if I don't hear the slide, he might as well not have written it. Yeah? So I would experiment a little bit. But already those two things you did were better. Yeah? And maybe a concentration on the lower string, could it be? Yeah. Yeah. And now here's an even crazier suggestion. Is there any possibility to slightly vibrate before you slide, and even if you can't, to at least mentally try? Yeah. So that it elongates the resonance, especially on the higher string. Then you need to be ultra sensitive. Maybe really do a much more forte piano. Maybe those can be kind of staccato-y. Yeah? At least a little bit drier. So you release the chord. So it's almost like a harp would go digga 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 digga, not a piano. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, great. Can we just try those places and then we move on? And then I'm going to be even more demanding, I'm sorry. But then after that you have like a bass. Yeah, I think there you can really slap it. Do you know how to do that? No. I think, show me that place. Yeah, so I think you have to, if I'm not mistaken, you have to kind of literally slap it like a double bass player would. So you pitch, but you have a slap at the same time.
I think I would have to have my bow down.
Oh yeah?
But
Okay, just first we'll try without the bow. Let's see what happens.
slap before? I don't. Do you?
I think it's like
Bar top is
you slap it
Bar
and
top.
you took middle finger, so you slap it like.
Yes! Yes. Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I know you can do it with the bow. Try at least without hurting yourself, but just try. The only thing you have to watch out for is that you don't hurt the instrument and you don't hurt your hand. Otherwise, give it the maximum. Anything, whatever you do. Yeah. Okay. So let's go a few bars before. Let's be sensitive to all the cello effects that have been required. So we can't be too loud, or you have to just be more, you know. Yeah, so that was a great chance for you to muck around, especially today. If not today, then when? Yeah. So you had your violist surprise you with something. So give it back to him. Either imitate it back, or suggest something different. Yeah. And you too. Yeah. And that's the same. That if someone throws the ball, throw it back, throw it higher, throw it lower, throw it back at his face, something. Throw it at yourself, destroy it, I don't know, something. Do something with the ball, yeah? When you have that kind of wonderful opportunity that someone has either messed up, which is a glorious opportunity. It's like, great, they made a mistake. We can make something out of this. Or they suddenly decided, wow, I'm going to just play this a little bit differently. Then just for fun. It might be terrible. Great. But that's why I say, if not now, then when? Yeah. I would like to have a little more conversation between you guys. But if, because, okay, no, it's a bit like, it's a very polite now. It's like, what do you think, oh kind lady cellist that I perform with? Well, since you asked, dear, this is what I think, if you don't mind me saying. Hey, you do this? No, that, okay, maybe that, but what, yeah, from great bass, slapping, fantastic, makes such a difference. Go from around there, anywhere that's good for you guys. 150 or whatever's good for you.
49 is good, no? 149. Is it good?
You need to be aware. You need to be aware of when are you playing on the 1s and 3s, and when are you playing on the 2s and the 4s. And when you play on the 2s and the 4s, it's a different part of the drum kit. The 2s and the 4s is usually the hi-hat. Yeah, the 1s and the 3s are the bass drums. So sometimes, yes, you're playing the violin, but you're actually playing the hi-hat. So those are different. So 149 is very different from 153.
Yes.
153 is like a trumpet. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah? It's like a brass instrument. Okay. So here comes a very dry academic comment, but 248, he does write più forte, which means that 244 is forte, and which means that before he writes mezzo forte and crescendo a few bars later. And it is a boring thing to point out, but I don't want you to like feel that you need to correct that. I just feel that he's written in a way that you have bass in the left hand of the piano, and then comes in this tenor line, da-dee-da-dee-da, which kind of acts like a bass line, but it's kind of not, because it's in a duet with the other bass line. You've got this stuff, beep, ba da 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 dee da da dee. We hear that. So you can make it much less, because we hear that. We're going to hear that. It's always, it's scientific. The lower registers, the lower strings vibrate. They take longer to reach us, longer to resonate. They're deeper, so our ear struggles to hear the lower voices. So the lower voices need a bit of time to be heard. So, and whatever's on top is resonance and trickling. And then comes in viola probably at some point there. And then comes the violin 2/4/4, but he writes forte, but very soon after, just right away so he's saying, guys, not yet. Yeah? But instead of thinking, that's why I'm cautious to say it's a dry academic thing to say, because it's very easy to follow road signs and say, oh ja, hat forte geschrieben, ja, so wir müssen lauter spielen. Absolutely couldn't care less. Yeah, it could work louder or softer, but there's some kind of proportion, there's some kind of build-up, and we need to hear those contrapuntal voices coming in. That's what's important. Yeah. Can we go from a bit before, please? 2/8 or something, or 2/4. Yeah. Move the hips, move the hips, move the hips. Elvis would not be Elvis if he didn't move his hips. Yeah. Another very dry academic comment. How do you three feel about her upbeat at the end of the cadenza? Yeah, that's a good thing, definitely.
But for me personally, it was not clear.
Because before I was like in the slow tempo feeling, and then suddenly there was a couple.
Yeah, I mean, I think you should have absolute freedom to do what you want. They should be able to react. But, on the other hand, I think maybe if you breathe it before, then they will be able to know what it is that you don't know what you're going to do. So there's a certain amount of telepathy that can be felt with how you... Does this make sense? So I know you want to be spontaneous. That's great. But then you kind of imagine it a split second before you do it, right? I mean, that's usually how the process works. You think, I'll do this. And then you do it. You hear it, you visualize it, and then you do it. So in that moment of, that needs to be the invisible telepathic breath, whatever it is, so they can somehow understand, this is the surprise. Yeah? Let's try something. Now, what does he mean when he writes Hollywood? In the workshop earlier, we attempted to recreate Hollywood here.
No, it's like a cliche Hollywood goodbye.
Yeah. Is he, what does he mean by that indication? Is he, maybe it's cafe music. What is the title of this piece? Cafe music. Do you know when it was written? But this evokes what period of history? This music. Yeah. What did you say? Mid-20s is maybe mid-20s. You mean like 1950s?
Yeah, or a bit earlier.
I think a bit earlier, don't you think? So like maybe 1920s, 30s. Yeah. Which was when kind of Hollywood started to be in full bloom. And then you had all these musicals, you had these amazing orchestras because all these musicians had to leave Germany and Austria. And many of them were incredibly talented musicians. And then they formed the orchestras in Hollywood. So many of them were actually either Jews or Europeans or, you know, and then they created this Hollywood sound. So if you watch any early Disney movie or any musical from the 20s and 30s, and just listen to the violins. They're amazing. They're the best players in the world playing movie music. Yeah, but they have a certain sound. I don't even know how to describe it. It's a very silky, sprinkly, sensual, starry, bright lightsy, glossy, glitzy, diamondy, slidey, indulgent, warm, oozy bath, champagne sound. I can't even imitate it. It's just a very special feeling. And there's a lot of violin solos when you listen to those soundtracks. And I think that's what he's trying to emulate a little bit there. This kind of, imagine at that point that you have so again, we talked earlier about notation and what does it mean? How can one improvise when something's written? How limited is notation? I mean, he writes triplets, but does he really mean 3 exact triplets in the space of that bar? Maybe this is one place where it's really like the piano or is the strings. She's the strings or whatever, and very melting, very kind of, strings have this wonderful possibility to be lazy. They can actually not, they can start late and still pretend that they're together. It's something that the pianists could never do, a trumpeter could never do, a percussionist could never do. even wind players can kind of fake it, especially the flute, because it's, you know. So a lot of orchestras, even the great players, you'll find that the wind players are late. The strings are starting late because they can afford to be. And the further you go down the desks, the later they are. Because they want the responsibility for the concert master. She has to have the responsibility. We'll kind of follow. Yeah. So this is definitely one of those places which is orchestral, that Hollywood sound. And you are Jascha Heifetz, or one of those unnamed, incredible, even probably better than Heifetz, people playing the concert master, the Hollywood Orchestra. So really glow and glisten and I mean, Marilyn Monroe is a lot later, but you know, it has Marlene Dietrich has to have that kind of very solistic in a very beautiful way, in a very Disney way, in a, you know, yeah. I don't know if that makes sense at all. Try something like 170-ish, so that there's context. So those triplets really can be laid back. There's no rush. It's just the two of you. You have all the time in the world. Yeah, lots of vibrato sound. Ideally, you should play the whole thing on the G string. I know it's not possible. I know. I mean, but that's the idea. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and actually, Johanna, you are Hollywood already before he writes Hollywood. Because when he starts having, you've never had really that writing before. It's always been kind of perky writing. Now it's harps and strings and Hollywood, and then she comes in, yeah? So let's go from the real Hollywood, which I think is 270. 270. You have C sharp, G natural in the bass. Yeah. That you couldn't live without, what notes would they be in this last chord? Do you know what the notes of the chord are? It's a four note.
So the C definitely, and the A, because it's the without the A would be like. So I would.
Do we agree with the pianist? Pianists are often right. Because they see the whole picture by default, which means if we agree with her, that means that your A has to be a little more prominent, because that's the juicy note. Because without that A, it's just a C minor chord. I mean, just, you know. But the C minor chord here would be a bit ordinary. But it's cafe music, so we need that A. And he only has that A in a middle voice on the piano and on your string. Nowhere else. So C's are taken care of. What note do you play?
I play S.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the E flat is of course important too.
I have C.
Yeah, but we have a lot of C's, so let's not worry about the C's. A, yeah. Can we have the last three chords? Yeah, and even on the chord before, what's the funky note in the chord before? Yeah, the F sharp. Again, you have it too. Yeah, so that means, what note should you care about? The F sharp. She's covering your B and your G anyway. So if you mess up the other three, we don't care, but that F sharp, yeah, that's the juicy one. Yeah. And then the chord before is just the pianist that has this juicy B. So he builds it up quite well. He has that, and then the last chord. Yeah. Okay, let's have last three chords and we're done. All right, thank you very much. Cool, thank you. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Feel uncomfortable enough? Thank you for this. I'll leave it here. I'll leave it here. So we have a Q&A now, if you want. If you don't want, that's also fine. But I don't know if anybody has any questions at all. If nobody wants to ask the first question, who wants to ask the second question? Yeah.
Thank you for this whole day. I wanted just to ask you where you explore to find so much positivity and so much freshness and encouragement.
Well, that's not really a question, that's a compliment, which thank you. But I'll try to treat it as a question. I think that music, like life, is full of surprises. You know, it's the same 7 days every week, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's the same names, it's the same 7 days. It's not like there's an 8th day. And it's the same 12 months. January, February, March, April. If you just take that combination of monotony and repetition, just think about how many incredible things happen differently from one Monday to another, and from one Tuesday to another, right? So actually that's the same from, you can look at that going the other ways. So it also works like every minute is different. And so therefore, if you're approaching Beethoven's Fifth or Schoenfeld or whatever, then in theory you can't see it the same way, because you're not the same person 1 minute later. You can't be. You're 1 minute closer to death, for starters. I know that sounds very morbid, but it's just a fact. We are like all living things, we are born with some knowledge that we're going to die. That's just a fact. We can not like it, we can embrace it, we can be afraid of it, we can look forward to it, we can try to speed it up, we can try to speed it down. But so from 1 minute to the next, we are different. The world is different. The earth is in a different axis. And I know this sounds very philosophical, ethereal. But first of all, it's true. And when you take it down to music and you play a C major chord, and then you play a dominant seventh of that, and then you really listen to that dominant seventh chord, like all four voices, and where is the pull? Where is it going? Do you hear all four voices? It's like that famous story of how, what was it, Mozart's father used to wake him up with a dominant seventh chord and not resolve it. But it's very hard to walk away from an unresolved dominant seventh, because you want it to be, you want to hear where it goes. So that means each time it's a new experience, because that resolution, and then it becomes even more surprising when we are lucky to play with music of Haydn or Mozart or Beethoven or any of those guys that are actually inventive and witty and lead you to expect something and then surprise you with something else. And when you're open to that kind of genius, this is why those guys survived. That's why Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven, and a lot of many others, obviously. That's why we talk about them today. That's why we still play them today. Because they were not the only composers around in that time. There were hundreds of others. And they haven't really survived. Why? Because their music was very predictable. It was 4-bar phrases. It was simple harmonies. It was correct notes. Beethoven wrote wrong notes. And so that keeps it alive. So if you're constantly following that moment of, this is a new moment, I'm living in the now I know nothing, it's zero, it's another day, it's another moment, it's another harmony, it's another progression. Yeah, I know it sounds very poetic when you say it like that, and of course life has its very harsh realities. Sometimes it's raining disgustingly, or you're ill, or you've lost a loved one, or whatever. There's so many atrocities that are going on now in the world that make you go, well, pfft. But it's still la vita è bella. It's absolutely beautiful. And that's the same with music. And each sunset is different. Each sunrise is different. And if you open your eyes and ears to that, then you're in a sense of wonderment. So then it's not really about being positive or whatever. You're just following the flow of what the world throws at you, and you go, you know, it's very easy to be negative. It's a very powerful energy. I don't know if any of you have ever done or seen the Emoto rice experiment. Do you know what I'm talking about? So I've actually done this experiment twice. And I admit, I've never done it the full scientific way, which is to have a third and a fourth jar, because in science you're supposed to have one jar that's neutral, etc., blah, blah, blah. But what I have done, I'll tell you what I did, is I had 2 jars of cooked rice, same jars, no tricks, it's not a magic trick. I can show you the photo later. Cooked rice, and I put it in both jars, same amount, same cooked rice, closed the jars, and on one of the jars wrote love and wrote a heart sign, and another one wrote, I can't say it now because we're on a live stream, but really the worst possible things. And every morning I would greet these jars, and the one that had the heart and love one, I'd say, hello, good morning, how are you? I love you, you're so beautiful, so wonderful. And to the one that was written with hate, I said the most obscene, horribly disgusting things that I cannot say now. And I will show you the picture later of what happened to the rice 5 weeks later. What's supposed to happen to cooked rice if it's in a jar? It should go old and moldy and disgusting. And the miracle is that the one with the heart sign stayed white after 5 weeks. So you can say whatever you want about, oh, who's the positive energy, ethereal, oh, but I'm sorry, it's just a fact. It's just, I've seen it, I've done it in my kitchen. And I don't care if anyone believes me, because I've seen it. And that's the power of positive thought, it's the power of positive energy, and likewise, that's the power of negative energy. And they say that actually there's something even worse than negative energy. There's something even worse than hate. Do you know what it is? Indifference. Ignorance and indifference. There's there's an author called Arthur Koestler who wrote a very famous book called Darkness at Noon, but he did lots of other things. He helped bring the end of capital punishment in England, because until late 60s or 70s, you could be punished by hanging. And he fought very hard to get rid of that. And I guess one of the reasons why is because he was put in prison a lot. He wrote books on humor, but he also wrote books on what it's like to be in prison, what it's like to be captive, what it's like to be abused. And he clearly said that the thing that was worse than being hit and abused and all of that was when he was just completely ignored. And if you do the rice experiment properly, you're supposed to have one rice jar that you totally ignore. And that's even worse. I've seen pictures of it. I just haven't done it myself. So, sorry, long answer to your very short question. But, yeah, I mean, we are, I don't know how much percent water. The earth is 70% water, at least. And I think we are also like 78% water, I think, or fluid, let's say. And the same way that energy affects rice, it affects water. And water has memories. It remembers. So if you get up in the morning, you say, I have a shitty life, I'm going to have a shitty day. I'm afraid of how I'm going to play today. Yeah, it's going to affect you. You'll probably have a shitty day, but worse than that, it affects your whole system, your whole immune system, because the brain is very powerful. I tell you something else, that the brain, this is an amazing thing. This laughter is incredible for you. Because even if you don't mean it, if you just laugh, even fakely, the brain doesn't differentiate between real laughter and fake laughter. When you go, ha 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 ha, you laugh, the brain thinks, oh, I'm happy, and produces all the hormones to be happy. So you can fake your system to be happy. They have laughing yoga, actually. They have laughing therapy. Yeah, I mean, this stuff is real. So yeah, I just think if you, it's also a very Zen-like thing. If you just approach a chord as if you're just hearing it for the first time, just really, how is it now? How is it sounding? And that's your musical process each time. That it's like you don't think you're an expert, and each time it's a new challenge, it's a new solution, new problem, new resolution. Then it's always fresh, and then it's always something to be discovered. My God, what an answer. Wow. Do we have that on tape? I'm going to quote myself now, only. Any last question? I promise I won't talk so long.
I would like to know, I don't know that much about what you do, I'm sorry, but I actually saw in the Vienna Film Festival your concert, this, I don't know what it was called, but this comedy duo concert. Yeah. And I want to know, like, what are your thoughts on this, like, because in classical music we have such a tradition, how it should be performed, how everything should be, it should be serious, it should be like serious parts, and not like, of course, the players should enjoy, but it's like very formal. Is that something conscious for you that you want to break, or have you had any like experiences? What are your thoughts on it?
Right, so I promised I wouldn't talk long, but this is absolutely impossible for me to answer in a short sentence. So if anybody wants to leave, they should leave now. You touch on so many things which really concern me. I'll try to keep it as short as possible. what I will say is that I'll try to keep it. I'll try to say two things. One, when I was a kid, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, I felt like nobody loves classical music more than me in the entire universe. It's a feeling I still have now. I know there's no way to measure this, and I haven't gone to Guinness Book of World Records and said I'm the most, let's measure it. But I feel that way. It's just a feeling. I love music more than anybody else on this planet. And when I went to classical concerts at the age of whenever I started going, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, I had this feeling that I don't want to be here. That the concert felt like some elite, alienating, superior ceremony, some unattainable ritual like a funeral or something. And I thought, wait a minute, I'm the guy that loves music more than anybody else on this planet, and I want to leave the concert hall. There's a problem. We have a problem. Because I'm the guy that loves, so what about all the other people? They don't like it as much as me, so how are they going to stay? Because I want to leave. And I realized that you picked on the word tradition. Tradition starting where? At which point in, it all depends at which side of the historical clock you look at traditions. Traditions change. And I think when anything becomes a tradition with sensitive respect, it means it has to be changed. I'm not maybe talking about on a cultural level, but I mean like, where you come from and this and that. But who on earth came up with the fact that classical musicians have to walk on stage dressed up like penguins, not talk to anybody in the audience, lights have to be low, the audience have to feel like they cannot move, they can only cough really loudly in between movements. Nobody can clap until everybody else does. And on top of that, now we have this tradition that every symphonic concert is the same program. It's an overture followed by a concerto, which usually is a piano concerto or a violin concerto, and usually played by someone very, very famous, never some young person or some talented person, local or whatever. And usually it's a concerto that everybody knows. Interval, symphony. And that you will find on practically every single page of every single concert house brochure. I don't believe that's what the guys, Beethoven, Liszt, Mozart, did. In fact, we know that they did not. We have programs of what they played, how they played, what they did. And we talk about authenticity. So why are we not being authentic to those guys, since those guys are our masters? They created this music in their time. Why are we just playing on period instruments, one semitone low, and saying, oh, but we're authentic? No, be really authentic then. Don't take a shower. And program pieces, programs which were diverse, had a mixture of old, new, folkloric. Someone would recite a poem. The famous story of Franz Clemens, who gave the premiere of the Beethoven Violin Concerto. In between movements, he was playing the violin upside down and doing magic tricks with his bow and whatever. Can you imagine Anne-Sophie Mutter doing that today? People would just be like, what? What is she doing? in the middle of between the first movement and the second movement, if she started like, you know, playing the violin upside down. Mozart wrote a letter to his father saying, Papa, you won't believe it. We just premiered my new concerto, and after 18 bars or whatever, they all applauded. We had to stop, and we had to play it again. He was so happy. Can you imagine that today, where they have some new, whatever, Frederick Serha piece or whatever, Bernard Alles-Zimmern piece performed, and people would start clapping after 10 bars. I mean, that would be a miracle in itself, that someone would clap after 10 bars of contemporary music. Would be kind of a victory. But can you imagine? It would be just, people would be like, shh, what are you doing? It's not the end. So, and again, I love to have silence when I'm playing. Who doesn't want full attention? Who would not want that? At the same time, I don't want to have the people listening to me feeling like they can't move. You know? So yeah, of course, if I'm playing slow movement of whatever, Opus 110, please shut up. On the other hand, I want you to feel relaxed and free. Because then I think it's the wrong message. And I think when you go and play music, let's say classical music, to people from countries that haven't had access to classical music, or refugees, or people in prison, or people in hospital, or people in care that, you know, they're in their last days of their lives. I've played concerts for deaf children. And I remember going there thinking, what? I'm playing for deaf children? They're not going to hear what I'm playing. This is a waste of time. How can this make sense? It was one of the most incredible experiences of my life, because these people who could not hear, some of them ran up on stage, put their heads inside the piano. One was lying under the piano, two sat right next to me, and then the others were like moving around, dancing. You know, it looked from if you'd had no idea what was going on, it looked like a freak show. It looked like Attack of the Zombies. And I was being attacked. And it was incredibly uncomfortable. I did it twice. The first, but I thought about it afterwards, and you cannot deny the power of music on these people, and they can't even hear it. And here they are dancing, moving, reacting. And what, in a concert hall, we're supposed to be better by not moving? But and is it as exciting? Do I see? You know, there's a disconnect. So whether it is a tradition or not, I think it's a terrible one. I think it has to be seriously changed. So I know this is a very long answer, but I'm sorry I could not answer it in a short way, because when you look up the historical documents of what was performance practice at the time, it's completely different from today. And we have even recordings to prove some things. You know, there were pianists. It was a practice of the time, a certain practice of a certain time, that musicians would improvise between pieces. So, and we have recordings of people like Joseph Hoffmann, who would play, I don't know, let's say 4 ballades, Chopin or whatever, and in between the ballade, improvise. There's a great a video of Georgi Schiffer just warming up, and he's just improvising before he goes into Chopin Opus 10, number 1. Okay, it was, you know, and we lost this. We lost the art of improvisation. We lost the art of surprising, of including different art forms. It kind of exists in opera. That's the whole point of opera, is the many different art forms and the whole Gesamtkunstwerk. But why can that not be a piano recital or a chamber music recital? Why can that not be an operatic theatrical experience? And so, to cut a make a long answer shorter, that's why me and my duo partner and others, we got together to try and create concerts that at least we want to go to. We would want it. It was a very selfish endeavor because we didn't understand why it had to be so serious. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that there has to be comedy in it. Not at all. But it starts, first of all, I think, maybe from the performer, maybe. That she doesn't take himself so seriously, takes the music seriously. But taking the music seriously is a big commitment and has a much bigger connotation than just learning the notes, being faithful to the notes, whatever that means. Like, for example, if you take the humor in Haydn, most people don't take that humor seriously enough. But it's there. They don't look for it. He's got lots of irregular phrases, lots of unexpected surprises, weird harmonic progressions, pauses, fermata bars in the middle of nowhere. Nobody does that stuff seriously. In other words, making a theatrical thing out of it. So, sorry for the long answer. I tried to warn you. But yeah, so I think it's very important that every concert experience, as much as possible, has at least one element of something unknown, something surprising, something to be discovered. Don't you want that as a listener? Right? When you go to a concert, do you want it to be boring? No, obviously not. Stupid question. What's the best concerts you've been to? Is it the ones that were played perfectly in tune? All the musicians played together? It was amazing execution, wow, those double thirds? Or was it the one where it made you want to cry, made you want to laugh, made you want to dance? They maybe even screwed up all over the place, but you came. Do you remember even those mistakes? No. You remember that feeling, even now, like you're thinking about your favorite performance that you went to. Because there was something alive, there was something so different, something charged. And you came from that thinking, and if you went with a friend, you were like, did you hear that? Oh my God, and when he played this and when she did that, oh my God. And I got to go practice now. I'm like, I got to go listen to this. That's the feeling we want. That's the feeling that I wish every concert should be like. So that's what I tried and what my partner and what we tried to do. And that's kind of what you saw, was having fun with music. Not making fun of it, but having fun with it.
I think there is a big argument for some people that if you have fun with it, then you're making fun of it, and they don't see that there is like, you can have fun while respecting the music. Thank you for the answer. It was really nice to listen to. Don't worry.
Thank you. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for listening out there.